All smiles the morning after the night before. The last few months has been a whirlwind for new FIFA President Gianni Infantino. He only entered the race as a backup replacement for the banned Michel Platini. Now he's the most powerful man in world football, and even he can't quite take it all in.
It feels good. It feels good. It's hard to believe still, I have to say, I have to admit, but of course I'm very humbled, but also very proud and fully aware of the responsibility that I have. So as of today, I will start pulling up my sleeves and working, because there is a lot to do here in FIFA, and I'm very happy to be starting today.
Nombre total de votes valables recueillis par Gianni, 115.
Infantino won the election by claiming a majority 115 votes to Sheikh Salman of Bahrain's 88. His key task now is to restore FIFA's credibility, an organisation that has been engulfed by controversy for the best part of a year. But he says he can do it.
Well, that is a task, definitely. I mean, I was also part of the reform committee of FIFA, so I know exactly what is needed, I know exactly what has to be done, I know exactly when it has to be done. It has to be done as of today. So we will implement the reforms, and the new era has started, and I'm sure that the image and reputation of FIFA will come up very, very quickly.
Well, that may well be easier said than done, given the extent of the corruption scandal that has engulfed world football's governing body. But most observers feel that the wide-ranging raft of reforms that FIFA delegates unanimously voted for is at least a step in the right direction.
I think FIFA does have the chance to move forward, not only because of Infantino having been elected, but also, and probably more significant, because they approved all the package of reforms, which really does restructure FIFA and puts it, almost makes it into a modern corporation.
Infantino will also be looking to rebuild his relationship with African football. Many African countries voted as a bloc for Sheikh Salman, but some feel Infantino can take African football forward.
I think Africa is always going to be very important in FIFA. I mean, you only have to look at the wonderful players that Africa produces to realise the great talent there. The problem has always been with Africa, and that's the actual poor infrastructure and really poor standard of administrators. And this is something that, is part of what FIFA has to address in terms of development.
One of Infantino's first public events will be to play a football match at FIFA's headquarters. He'll hope it demonstrates that it's matters on the pitch that should be making the headlines and not off-field scandals. Dan Williams, CCTV, Zurich.
Right now, let's get more on this. We can now go live to Zurich, where CCTV's Dan Williams joins us live. Now, Dan, you did mention there that one of his tasks will be rebuilding his relationship with African football. Talking about the continent, is Gianni Infantino likely to be pro-African, especially considering that it was clear in his campaigns that the continent did not back him?
Yeah, I think that it'd be very interesting actually to find out how many African countries it did indeed end up voting for Gianni Infantino. Given, of course, that it was a continent that he's travelled widely during his campaign. He went to Egypt, South Sudan, Rwanda, South Africa, and he appealed directly to many of the African countries when, during his speech during the Congress, he said about how FIFA's money, their finances, is really their association's money. And for a number of African countries, of course, that operate on shoestring budgets, then that extra money, if it were to come through, that would be very much essential indeed. So I think for Gianni Infantino, he'll know the power that African football has, the importance that it has, and I think he will be looking to do a lot more for African football going forward. Let's not forget the potential of a 40-nation World Cup. That's every chance of that happening, and that could, of course, bring a lot more extra seats, if you like, to the World Cup table going forward.
Now, Dan, of course, Gianni Infantino comes in at a critical time for FIFA. The organization has been marred by corruption scandal after corruption scandal. What plan does he have in place to clean shop at FIFA?
Yeah, you could, as a cynic, you could look at Gianni Infantino and look at his close association, say, with Michel Platini and whether there was enough transparency even at UEFA. But of course, you have to also look at what he's pledged. He says that this is just a starting point for FIFA. And of course, what's more important, of course, is that yesterday at the Congress, these new reforms were passed. Now, those reforms have taken a lot of power away from the presidency, as well as the new chief executive who will replace the Secretary General there as well as the FIFA Council. So the old regime, if you like, has been completely replaced. And of course, FIFA themselves are still under the microscope. And as far as Infantino is concerned, he is also, seemingly to reports, suggest that his salary will be less than the chief executive. So it's a much watered down presidency in comparison to the Sepp Blatter years. And so that would lead one to think that FIFA can get on the right path. And of course, with Infantino, he's pledging and will be judged on whether he can bring those reforms about for FIFA.
And Dan, talking about those reforms, Infantino, of course, is the first president under these new reforms. Are we likely now to see more transparency across the board to restore confidence in FIFA?
Well, I think this is, as far as FIFA is concerned, yes. I think that FIFA will, from now on, you'll see greater transparency. We're going to have the disclosure of salaries. We're going to see a whole raft of these new reforms come through. But of course, the big problem really for world football is that a lot of the scandals, the controversies, have really focused more regionally. So it's been to do with the various marketing and TV deals that have been done, certainly through the CONCACAF region. And it's because of those outside of FIFA jurisdiction, if you like, that FIFA have distanced themselves from as well, that it's where that trickle-down effect to the various associations and confederations, which is where the extra focus will be needed, and whether FIFA can, in a way, look after that, can perhaps give the extra the incentives to make sure that those associations also follow FIFA's path on having greater transparency.
Dan, thanks for joining us on Match Point. That was CCTV's Dan Williams joining us live from Zurich in Switzerland.